Welcome, everybody, to episode 260 of This Uncanny Year. Tonight, we have special guest Mike Familant joining us from In the Shadow of Big Red Eye. He will be along momentarily, but first, we got to break down some different news that we have coming up. This coming Thursday, not yesterday, of course. This coming Thursday, December 14th, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Yours truly will be doing his annual Fallout for Hope for St. Jude charity drive. Come through, hang out, watch me play games, and act like a complete goofball. Also, behind me, of course, I have the inevitable demise, the hot chip challenge, the Pocky. This year's, I'll be eating that chip and probably drinking a whole gallon of milk. So please stop by, say hey, do what it do, and come through and hang out with your boy for a few hours. I'm really gonna need some of y'all at like 2 a.m. because that's when I'm gonna start feeling the pain. So feeling the pain train. Anyways, that is what I have coming up. Spider here, he has something coming up tomorrow, actually.
I do. Before I get to that, I want to add real quick that if anybody feels like upping some donations, then you can put that towards Rob's spicy Dr. Pepper, because that should be next on the list.
I would love
Dr.
that.
Pepper's putting on some hot stuff. Dr. Pepper that's supposed to be super spicy, and we'll see how that goes. As for me, tomorrow on Saturday, I will be in Akron, Ohio at the Vortex costume. I don't know what that came from. It's not Halloween. The Vortex Concert Club, representing the new business that I joined recently. I've been kind of keeping it under wraps on here, but I've been talking about it on social media all over the place. I will be representing Big Buff Records, a hip hop and expanding record label, as at one of their shows. It's going to give me a chance to kind of network with some people there. I'm not performing, so I don't want anybody to get too excited and think, "Oh yeah, you're going to be on the roster."
You'll be
No,
spitting bars on stage, son. Let them
I'm
know.
not doing that. I don't know if I'll. There's been talk of me potentially doing some stage work at some point in the future, but I don't know. I kind of
Ooh.
retired from all that, and that's been a good idea for
Ooh.
a while, but we'll see. But I'll be wandering through the crowd, meeting people, shaking hands. I don't think I'll be kissing any babies because, for one, it's 2023 and people are weird about that, and for two, it's not all ages show. So, but yeah, I'll be there. If you want to come by, buy me a drink, it'd be great because I don't have a whole lot of drinking money.
So make sure you buy the spider a drink. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let us bring in our guest all the way from New Jersey, the Garden State, I think is that one. Is that one is? Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Familant. Hello, Mike. Welcome on into the show.
Howdy, howdy. Garden State is absolutely correct, sir.
There it is. There it is.
Thank you
And
for having
did
me.
I get your last name right?
Yes, you did actually.
Okay.
2 for
Let me
2.
make sure. I'm usually
Two
like
for, 2 for 2, and we're like 5 seconds in. That's pretty good.
oh, nice. There's still time to mess it up. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike, and what it is that you do.
Yeah, so let's see. I'm 34. In a past life was an EMT, did that as a career. Changed that over to Bigfoot research full time. What I do is I go around the country and I speak at libraries during the day about Bigfoot, and that funds my expeditions to go and film my show in the shadow of Big Red Eye. At night, I tent camp in state parks and national forests and stuff like that. And I did that 129 nights last year, or this year. So that's my full time thing. It's great. I get to see the country, and I get to meet some really cool people along the way.
Nice, nice. Real quick, I just want to say hey to the following people. First of all, hey, James Boggs, welcome. Elisa Placaros. Hello, Alyssa. Apple Tree Jamboree, as always, I appreciate you being here. And of course, Sound Zeus, thank you very much for being
Is
here.
he in the chat room today already?
So tell us, Mike, what got you into the whole Bigfoot thing? Because you just said you were an EMT, and
Yeah.
it is a very different course of action.
Yeah.
from there to there, as I know myself, as I have a degree in business, but I did not go down the business path. So I definitely
my degree is in criminal justice. Go figure. I am not doing anything in that field.
no,
Let me
you're
tell you
bringing
that.
Bigfoot to jail.
But anyway, it started back in 2011. Um, I was watching Finding Bigfoot, and they're like, "Hey, if you want to come out with us, sign up." Said, "Okay, not a problem." So I signed up, and nothing happened. The trip. It was me and my buddy Jimmy. Nothing happened at the trip. It was kind of a bust, right? We met like a bunch of other people, and there were like a lot of other people there. So it's like, how are we gonna find Bigfoot with like
Mhm.
60 other people on this
Right.
investigation, right? There were like 60 other people there. Anyways, but so we paid a lot of money to go on this expedition, right? And there was no Bigfoot activity. So it was the last night. Me and my buddy, it's like 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and me and my buddy were up watching a campfire and watching a meteor shower is going over,
Nice.
and it was really cool, beautiful, And we hear a tree knock. So I immediately thought that it was the people that put on the expedition. Since we didn't get any activity, I was like, "Oh, okay, they're knocking on a tree, so whatever."
Right.
About 5 minutes later, tree knocked the complete opposite direction. I'm like, "Oh, these guys are pretty good. They must be putting on a good show for us, you know?" So whatever. Um, so then about 15 minutes later, 10 minutes later, you hear it come crashing down through the trees, and it lands about 5 feet from us, a fist-sized rock, just like this. Um, and I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." This is my first time ever camping, so I was scared out of my mind. I was like horrified. And my buddy's like, "Well, if you want to sleep in the car, then you could sleep." And by the time, and I was like in the car before he could finish the sentence, type of thing. So he came into the car and he's like, Mike, talk, this is what Bigfoot do. They throw rocks, they knock on trees. This could be squatchy activity that you're having here. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I went back out by the campfire, and over the course of the next 10 minutes, four more of these fist-sized rocks came and landed 5 to 10 feet from our campsite, or from our campfire, right? So it was at that point my buddy's like, "I'm going to throw a rock back at it." I said,
That'd
"Jimmy,
be
I don't
me.
think that's a good idea,
That'd
man."
be
Like,
me.
There's no sound logic in that one. I'll tell you
That'd be
that
me.
much. Yeah,
so
that'd be
so
him. That would be
that'd be
you.
Spider.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
100%.
So he takes a rock and throws it back, and it was met by almost instantaneously, like 5 seconds later, a 15, 20-pound laptop-sized boulder came and landed down and crashed 10 feet from our campfire with a big thud, right?
Nice.
So then all the activity stopped. Nothing else happened after that, and that was our first little thing about like Bigfoot, and it was outside of human range. Couldn't have been a person just because the trajectory and how far away it was, type of thing. Also, who would be throwing rocks? It doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense, and it was too heavy, so it couldn't have been a person.
And I think too, like, that finding Bigfoot expedition, man, they really put on a good show if that was the case. But the funny thing
Yeah.
about Bigfoot sightings that I have heard, it always involves the tree knocks, obviously, and rocks. There's been a couple different examples and tales of rocks being thrown. Couple at a house that was out in the woods years ago, just Bigfoot just chucking rocks at a house. And it seems to be either a primary method of communication or a primary method of get out of here.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I
Do
think
too.
it's an aggressive thing. I think it's like, hey, you're too close to our family group, so you need to kind of get out of the area. I think it's like they're like first line of defense, if you will, to try to get humans out of their area. I think. I don't know. I was speaking of rocks getting thrown. I was at in Marlon Dickinson Reservation, Sussex County, New Jersey, or Morris County, New Jersey, up here, and I think it was on a BFRO expedition, or maybe it wasn't. maybe it was planning for one. Anyways, we were all facing. There were 5 of us, and we were all facing the swamp area. And a rock gets thrown from behind us, and it rolls in between our legs, me and my partner's legs, right? Like we were sitting next to each other. So we like got the therm out, instantly thermed, and couldn't see anything on the therm, but we thermed the rock, and it was hotter than all the other rocks that were around. So this thing, I think this thing was like holding a rock for a substantial amount of time to transfer the body heat to it, and then it chucked it, and that's why it was hotter than all the rest of the rocks. It's wild.
What is your favorite encounter that you've had, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh man, my favorite encounter, man. Yeah, I don't know. Some of the little encounters are fun. I was just up in Whitehall, New York, with a person that had saw Bigfoot, and she wanted to come out at night with us, so we brought her out, and part for the show, and we were filming everything, and we did a whoop, and we got a reply whoop back, and just the look on her face, it was so cool, like to turn like because she didn't like necessarily believe what she saw. So then to have her like as some confirmation is like, oh, that is a Bigfoot. There is a Bigfoot out there. That was really cool. But counter wise, have to say, up in Whitehall, New York, had to be the best encounter. We were camping up there. It was August, I believe it was, and we were up there hiking down this unused hunting trail, and we walked into this area, the end of the trail, and all of a sudden we like walked into these tree knocks. That's how I would like to describe it. And they were knocking like all around us, like there were at least 3 different individuals knocking on trees, and we started getting in a little bit. They started approaching a little bit closer. You could hear foot stomps and them like walking through the woods type thing, and the like the footfalls, whatever. Then they started throwing rocks, and they were like chucking rocks and hitting trees behind us. We got this all on audio, which is crazy. But that night was kind of like the night that I was like, wow, if these things wanted to hurt us, they probably could. You know what I mean? And the fact that they didn't, I think that shows something, some level of intelligence anyway.
Now,
that was probably my coolest encounter.
Now, when you've had these different encounters, have the encounters you've had, are they indicative of one specific species or type of Bigfoot, or do your encounters indicate that there could be multiple species of the Bigfoot? Say like you have the abominable snowman, you have the Himalayan giants, and then you have the different skunk apes and things like that. Do you notice a pattern, or is it just a very random thing? Like, do one set have tree knocks while another set might do howls?
That's a great question. I don't have enough evidence across the country to be able to answer that effectively or efficiently. But what I will say is, in different areas of the country, Bigfoots act differently. So like in Ohio, they're more aggressive than in other words. You have the Ohio grassman. They say that's more aggressive. Yeah. I lived in Cleveland. I was very mad when I lived there for like the 3 months that I lived there. So that was that.
We're always mad. That's just Ohioans. There's not a time when we're not mad.
And then you have like the Bigfoot in New Jersey, where it's very rare and difficult to capture any sort of vocalizations. And I think that's because, again, if you're talking about intelligence and Bigfoot, maybe they realize that there's a heck of a lot of people out here in New Jersey, and they can't vocalize. Otherwise, they're going to be found out, type of thing. That could be a possible thing as well.
So, do you think that when you make these calls, have you ever tried to talk with the Bigfoot in other languages? Have you ever tried to use any Native American language or any sort of, I wouldn't say ancient tongue, but, like maybe, I wouldn't know what to really say with that. Maybe Irish or a language of that nature that is pre-existent of English. Have you ever tried to do that out in the woods and just, or have somebody talk and see if you have a response that is different from just your normal whoopings and hollerings?
No, it's a great tactic, and I don't have the knowledge nor know anybody with the knowledge. Maybe if we end up going out, I saw you're studying a different language, so
Yes, sir.
that would be cool. But anyways, what we have done in the past is use and this is more so to get people I bring out with into the spirit, I guess, if you will. But it's a Native American story of the giants. It's a legend, a tale of the giants, how this giant being comes into the city and takes the people from this Native American tribe, and
Mhm.
finally they have an all out war with it. It's really cool, and it's a really interesting story. It has some cool meanings behind it too, which is awesome. Um, and it does play some Native American music in it, which I find interesting, and I wish that I could play that more often. I think that's something I would like to try when I'm out in the field, especially in an area with a high level of Native American influence, right? That they've been there before, sure.
I think too that what a lot of Bigfoot researchers might not understand or grasp is that link that connects both the Native Americans and Bigfoot. Like we were talking off camera earlier, there are tales of the Bigfoot actually fighting with Native Americans against the white man or the European settlers. And so that's why I bring up maybe by utilizing some form of Native American speech, whether it be Navajo, Hopi, whatever, what have you, into your expeditions. I wonder if you would get a different result, whether that would be a result of um, respect or the complete opposite,
With the
because that's
opposite,
another
yeah.
thing. When I was studying giants, which I always still do, there are tales of the redhead and the black-haired giants, and the red-headed giants came through and killed off the black-haired giants, and then the Native Americans
Cool.
came through and killed off the red-haired giants, and it just seems to be an ebb and flow. And I have to wonder if in some accounts those red-headed giants might be a Bigfoot, maybe a descendant. Maybe they lost the gift of their language because you wipe out a whole tribe of people and maybe wipe them all out, but 2 or 3 people, your language is pretty much dead. Like you can't pass that on. You can't, if you don't know how to teach somebody your language,
Yeah, if
you're not
you're
gonna be able to
limited with
pass that
your,
on.
yeah,
And
that's
if
true.
you're procreating and you can't pass that down, the only thing you're really left with are whoops, tree knocks. It's almost like the Bigfoot use a Morse code type of communication, and that plays into my second question here. Do the tree knocks, are they much like Morse code, where it's like a dot or like a dash? And have you seen patterns in tree knocks while you're out? Are you like, well, that could mean this? Hypothetically, obviously you don't have a translator's guide to that sort of thing, but do you see patterns that sound like it could not necessarily sound like words, but be akin to a word like get out or we don't want you here anymore?
It's super simple, and I'd be curious to see if this works throughout the country. So any of your listeners, if they experience wood knocks, I'd be curious to see this. The number of wood knocks that you hear is usually, in my experience, equal to the number of people in your party that are entering the woods. So if you hear 3 tree knocks, that's going to be 3 of us entering the woods, type of thing. And that plays out for about 80 to 90% of the tree knocks that I hear.
That's interesting because it's almost like they have a perimeter set up around wherever their main base
Area
or
is, yeah.
home is, and so they're letting all of their other relatives, I guess would be the best way to put that,
Family group,
no,
however you want to term it, sure.
like, hey, there's people coming through. Also want to give a big quick shout out to Scruffy. He was the one I was telling you, he's from New Jersey too. He lives in New Jersey.
What's
as
up,
well.
Scruffy?
So you got 2 New Jersey guys in here, so that's pretty cool. So that being said, what have you learned when you first started this and what you have learned now Do you think Bigfoot is a case of evolutionary response, or do you think it's something otherworldly? Because I've heard both arguments. I've heard on one hand it's Astropithecus, or hopefully I pronounced that right. It's that descendant, but then I've heard other people say it's more of a dimensional thing because I've had a couple folks go into the woods. Jamie and Jenny King have went in, and they have they find these, like, I almost want to call them TP-esque forts, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamie said he went in and put his cell phone in. He didn't get bars in the rest of the forest, and when he put it in, inside of that TP shaped structure, that he got full bars. And so I have to, and listen, I don't go one way or the other because I don't have enough evidence to pinpoint either of those two things. But what is your opinion on that of Bigfoot being either A, more of an evolutionary thing, or B, more of an otherworldly thing?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, well, in my experience anyway, it's definitely like the evolutionary path. That's the way I take. I think it kind of evolved alongside of us, but not obviously the same as us type of thing. But yeah, I mean, some of those things are really interesting. Like you bring up the structures and stuff, and like we don't know if they're nobody's ever seen like a Bigfoot make a structure. So we don't know if that's necessarily Bigfoot making them. They could be UFOs making them or something else. I don't know, or people. We could have people making them. I don't know. But and same way with tree breaks and stuff like that. Nobody's ever seen a Bigfoot make a tree break. There'd be leaning signs to say that it would probably be Bigfoot doing that, but nobody's ever seen them. So it's all hypothesis, really.
Now,
Yeah.
does the well, have a good night, James. Thank you for stopping by. If you get a chance, go back and listen to it. Does the size of the forest indicate whether there are Bigfoot or not? Because we have little what we call metro parks in the area. They're not as big. Obviously, you're not going to get something like Pacific Northwest here in Ohio. You do have some pretty big parks. But have you been in parks that are relatively small? Like you could get out of it in maybe like a few hours. Like if you walked from one end to the other, you could probably be out of there in maybe, say, 4 or 5 hours. Like Mohican State Park, for instance, you can walk around in there and pretty much find where you're going within a relatively decent amount of time. You're not going to get too lost unless you venture some goofy way. Do you find that the bigger parks produce better results than the smaller parks? Which I would think that would make sense because there's more land for more Bigfoot to roam.
It's actually the exact opposite. I find more activity in smaller parks because there's less room for Bigfoot to hide, I think. When you say big parks and small parks, I don't think that really makes too much of a difference. Excuse me. When it comes to my theory of Bigfoot, I think Bigfoot are nomadic, right? So I think that means they follow the food. And to follow the food, that means they're not staying in a specific area. They're not going to be staying in, say, Forest A or B. They're going to be traveling from Forest A to Forest B as that food supply. They're going to be traveling with the supply of food. So I think what you have to look for is greenways. If you have an area with a lot of greenways, I know the metro parks are connected with some greenways. There are some rivers that connect them. But if you look at a map, that's probably not the best spot to start looking for Bigfoot because they're all there's no real food sources in between them, right? But you start looking, say, if you take a map of New Jersey, my home state, you could see how Bigfoot can travel around the state, no problem, without being seen.
Now, for the listeners, would you explain what a greenway is?
Yeah, it's just it's an area. It's either natural or man-made, or not man-made, but it's a natural area that just doesn't have any sort of human development on it. So it's a pathway for animals to take to get from one area into another. Very important for nomadic animals and migratory animals and stuff for them to have this greenway. I know. in New Jersey, bobcats have a super duper highway that run through the county up here. So that's an indicator, a species, I think, of Bigfoot as well. But it's cool that you could see how the bobcats could move. We know that the bobcats move throughout the county, so the Bigfoot, I think, do the exact same thing, which is pretty cool.
Now you talk about them Bigfoot following the food.
Yeah.
Have you ever pulled up a correlation with the sort of, I don't want to say what the basically depopulation of a specific animal, albeit a deer or what have you, with the correlation of Bigfoot leaving an area? Like you go to an area, one time and it's, very heavily Bigfoot sounds, all that. And then you go back and you learn that, the deer population isn't as high as it was that year that you went, and you see a significant decrease in Bigfoot activity in that area. Do you find that to be a good correlation?
I've not noticed that. I don't think there's enough Bigfoot to make a difference in that in that scenario. I don't think, for example, my research has led me to believe that there are about 9 Bigfoot that live in the state of New Jersey that call New Jersey the Garden State home. And you have that small of a population. For example, we have the bear hunt going on right now, and just in my county, on the first day, they shot 33 bear. So we have the highest density of black bear population east of the Mississippi, actually, and we actually have the highest number of Bigfoot sightings east of the Mississippi as well. But what's very interesting too is if you take, I think Bigfoot eat what bears eat, and I think we know that bears eat a lot of berries, right? If you go into an area where there's supposedly a lot of berry bushes and you see there's no berries, I think there's a higher chance that Bigfoot is going to be in that area. Rather than looking for how many deer are going to be in the area, I would look for berries actually.
Are some Bigfoot meat eaters?
I think they're both meat eaters and vegetarians, right? I think I think their diet consists almost exactly the same as what bears consist of. Because if you look at a bear population map and a Bigfoot sighting map, they're almost the exact same, right? So that would lead me to believe that if there's 2 large apex predators in the area, they probably would eat the same things. So that means berries, bushes, ferns, stuff like that. And they're just going to be devouring 70%, their diet is going to be these bushes. Then you have small animals like rodents, rats, maybe some bunnies if you want to throw them in there, but really animals that don't have it takes a lot of calories to chase down a deer. I mean, it's just, and I know as a human hunter, we wouldn't it wouldn't make sense for us to chase down a deer. We wouldn't be able to, and B, just, caloric intake wise, if we're in a survival situation, we're not going to be expending those calories trying to take down that large prey animal. We're just going to be grabbing those berries and eating them. That just makes sense.
So that being said, and you said that, New Jersey has, a high bear population, high Bigfoot population. How do you think, or not think, that the Bigfoot and the bear can coexist without a lot of friction? Because you would think that with, a bear is a very territorial creature. We were out in West Virginia some years back, me and my family, and we were on a pontoon boat going down the Elk River, and I remember seeing a bear. And it was a baby bear, but you couldn't see the mom. Yeah. But the mom was there. The mom was 100% there, hanging around, waiting to see if something was going to happen. So what do you think, in your opinion, is the reason? Because I don't read, and maybe it's one big cover up. I got to do the quotation marks here, of the reason why you don't find a lot of bear Bigfoot attacks.
Bigfoot
I feel like at
interaction.
this
Yeah.
point, if a bear and a Bigfoot got into it, it might. I don't think it'd be a one-sided fight. I think it'd be a pretty much, an even fight. Bears are pretty powerful, and the Bigfoot is said to be as well. So how do you think that they don't? I mean, obviously, outside of the notion that Bigfoot, much like some human tribes did, come and collect their dead.
Mhm.
Why do you think you don't see as much friction, or maybe you do and we just don't talk about it, between Bigfoot and the bear population?
I don't think. Well, first of all, I don't think they are enemies of each other. I think if a bear makes a kill of a little animal, maybe if a Bigfoot's stalking that bear, he'll come in and chase the bear off, type of thing. I don't think a bear's going to actively attack a Bigfoot, just like he's not going to actively attack a person. The only way that I think you're going to have a Bigfoot bear fight is if a Bigfoot is going to chase down a bear for a meal, type of thing. Otherwise, the bear's just gonna, and again, that wouldn't be worth fighting a bear for a meal. It would be too much danger to chase down a bear, just like that. And then also too, again with the population too, I've been hiking in Sussex County, for many years now, and I've seen bear 5 times. That's not a lot. I've seen more bear in other states than I have in my own backyard here hiking in Sussex County. So that doesn't mean that the bear aren't there. And just as I said before, with hunting season, whatever, they're actually going to extend it because they didn't meet their quota. But there are a lot of bear here. It's just they're very scarce, and they're not seen a lot. You got to know where to look for them and where they're going to be able to find a bear.
And so, like, in your opinion, you would think that maybe they just find a way to coexist, because both
Yeah.
of them, and I've heard other tales, and I've read in books that the forest gets absurdly quiet when there's a Bigfoot in the area. I don't know how true that is. I've never been out in the woods for that to happen. But does that happen? Like, when you're out doing that, does the forest feel all of a sudden eerily quiet, like you could hear a pin drop, and that would be that?
Yeah. And everybody, it's interesting because people say, and yes, I've heard that. And people say all the time how that's a correlation of Bigfoot. When the wood gets silent, there's Bigfoot in the area. I would actually go out on a limb and say it's when there's a predator in the area, the woods will get silent, right? So it's not necessarily a Bigfoot, but as we're tramping through the woods, these animals obviously see us as like danger, so they're going to get quiet, which kind of makes sense, right? They don't want to get eaten by us, so they're going to be quiet when we walk by, just like a cricket would, right? So I think, like, I mean, I don't know, like, it's it's possible that they correlate, but I think it's more of a natural reaction than anything Bigfoot related.
So you think it's just something that's in the area, more or less? Say yourselves, and
Yeah.
you're making enough noise, not like you're making a giant racket or anything, but like you're making enough noise where the force is like, okay, we've got some people in here that usually we don't have. It's usually
Mhm.
quiet. There's usually nobody here. So, out of a defense mechanism, let's just get quiet. You can't
Yeah.
find them if they're quiet.
Well,
So
and yeah, and I think you kind of touch on a good point too, is like, and I think Bigfoot are aware of this too, and they're gonna I think Bigfoot know that you are in the woods long before you get out of your car, if they're in the area, right? I think a tree, when you close your car door, it sounds just like a tree knock, and I think that's going to alert any Bigfoot in our ears distance to get out of the area because there's humans coming. So in order to, you're not going to sneak up on a Bigfoot, is my point. Especially, even just walking through the woods when there's no leaf litter on the ground and it's quiet and stuff like that, you still make noise. The rubbing of your pants together, it's like if you put somebody in your bedroom, you're not going to know somebody's in your bedroom. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's just the same way as looking at as going Bigfooting. You're not gonna. I love the investigators that are like, you have to turn your lights off. No lights on, no talking, nothing. It's like that. You're not gonna sneak up on one of these things.
It's like
You
detention.
know?
And
Yeah, it's like
It's like you're
what kind
going
of
to
what? That's
detention.
not fun. What kind of fun is
people
that, right?
people don't think about all the other different senses that something like that might also have too, because living out there in the woods as either a natural part of the order or out there, or at least having coexisted with it for so long, they're going to pick up on your deodorant or your
Oh
aftershave
yeah.
or the sandwich you had for lunch, or all these different things. They're going to do that. You mentioned they hear the clothes swishing around.
Mhm.
They're going to pick up on so many other things that aren't necessarily visual cues, and people don't think about that as much. They're just like, oh yeah, we'll just be really quiet. We just won't show any lights or campfires or whatever. But you're not covering up your
No,
scent. You're not covering up
no.
the little tiny sounds you make.
And then even with trying to film my show, it's I mean it's impossible. We use infrared cameras to film at night, so I think Bigfoot can see infrared. So the chances that we get Bigfoot on our cameras are slim to none. Why do we bring the cameras out? Because we can't film a show without it. And I'd rather say that I'd rather I'd rather try to film Bigfoot and not see Bigfoot than see Bigfoot and not film him. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, and I, because who knows what you might catch out there that's not Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Now, I
that's
I
true
gotta
too.
ask too, with the sightings of Bigfoot that people have said they have seen, and the sightings UFOs in the area, and I don't know your stance on UFOs. I don't think we've ever had that
Yeah,
conversation.
I don't think we have.
Do you think there is a correlation between Bigfoot and UFO sightings? I know that up in Pennsylvania, they had supposedly a farmer had seen a UFO land, and a couple of Bigfoot got out of the craft itself. Do you think there could be a possible correlation, or do you think that's just something that people melded together to create some form of what I would call hype?
Yeah, two things. You can't explain you can't explain an unexplained with an unexplained. That doesn't make any sense, right? So when people try to explain the phenomenon of Bigfoot, you can't do that because we don't know, right? So I don't know, and especially when you get into saying like Bigfoot is like supernatural and they could like shapeshift and be interdimensional. Hey, I think if you have an opinion on Bigfoot, you're good, but if you look at it, in my opinion, that's the evidence that I've found is Bigfoot's a biological creature, right? So I don't think they're related to UFOs or anything like that. However, I will say, I was in High Point State Park, about I don't know when it was, probably 2016, 2017, and we saw there were 6 of us, and we saw a zigzag red light zigzag across it. We were along a gas line, and it just did an M or a W all the way across the skyline, right? Um, 10 minutes later, we got the best Bigfoot vocalization that I've ever heard before. So for me, if they were like 30 seconds apart, I'd be like, okay, you know, that might be, correlation there. But 10 minutes, 15 minutes went by, and then we got the Bigfoot call. It's two. I think that we just saw two very rare. It had two very rare phenomenons happen at the near similar times.
I wonder too if maybe it was a Bigfoot calling out to another one, basically saying, "Did you see that? Tell
Yeah,
me you saw
right.
that." Like we would
Yeah,
do, like I'd be like, "Hey
Mm.
man, did you see that?"
yeah.
Making the M in the sky, type thing. Because what I've noticed, many researchers point that the Bigfoot have similar characteristics to human beings, and I know of some have gone on record as saying that there is a possible relation of some kind to Bigfoot from human beings. Um, what are your thoughts on that? On the whole idea that human beings and Bigfoots have very similar DNA, or that we are related?
it's gotta be close, right? Just like primates, we have very similar DNA to primates and stuff like that. I think Bigfoot has very similar DNA to us. Like I said, I think like like Neanderthals that kind of didn't pre-Neanderthals that didn't really come to similar evolutionary status as we did. So they're not, I don't think DNA wise are far off at all.
Do you think that? See, my opinion on Bigfoot is I think Bigfoot is part of the old world. I like to say there's an old world and a new world. The Industrial Revolution was sort of the beginning of the new world, and I think because you have a lot of sightings and tales and folklore and myth of different creatures. You have, I was able to sort of connect the Deermen legend of Native American to a Celtic belief in Cernunnos, who is a deer god, so to speak. And I personally believe that the Bigfoot is part of that old world where things like that existed, pre light or light pollution, pre cell phone towers, pre industrial revolution. Because a lot of times, if you look, when you build these large factories and they're billowing out the smoke that at that point wasn't regulated, so you have no idea what they were burning. People were getting sick. If it affected us, I don't think it's too far-fetched to say it affected whatever else has existed alongside us for so long when there wasn't that form of pollution and they were like smelling it, they were breathing it in, and maybe it was killing a few of them. So they decided to sort of move deeper into unknown territory that most men wouldn't try to civilize, so to speak. And I think that we see that in Native American folklore of Bigfoot. We see that in the idea of the Yeti in Asia. And I think we have that because Bigfoot isn't just in one location. And I think that's a good case for Bigfoot existing. I could see if it was just like, say, New Jersey. I wouldn't be so inclined to believe that it was real. If it was in one location, that could be just a fluke. It could be a bear. Somebody been out drinking and all of a sudden they see a bear, they think it's Bigfoot. But when you have, and I've said the same thing about giants, I think that they're both very, very much related in some form or fashion because you have so many different encounters and these giant skeletons and things like that were found and sent off to the Smithsonian, that it can't just be a hoax. And you also have,
Right. Yeah.
you have different beliefs in ancient Greece and Rome about sort of beast men. And, back then, you're only going to describe something how you see it. If you don't have a reference point for anything else, if I see a Bigfoot now, I'm like, that's a Bigfoot. But imagine I don't have that pre-knowledge of that's a Bigfoot. I'm like, that's a giant hairy person. That's a very hairy man. Your brain is gonna think on what you know, and that's really gonna be the extent of it. And I'm like, oh yeah, you watch that guy Mike show, yeah, that's a Bigfoot. But if you don't know what a Bigfoot is, or have never heard of one, that's gonna be something very foreign to you. It's something very, very different feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're hitting on what you said with the Industrial Revolution. That's a great thing you bring up because like pre like to say the folklore is accurate for Native Americans and the Bigfoot did live alongside and with the Native Americans, and then once Europeans came in, they were like, oh crap, these people got guns and they're gonna try to shoot us type thing. That's not cool. Let's try to get away from these people now. I could see that happening. You know what I mean? For sure.
Especially if something's threatening your way of life. And
yeah.
And I think too, like it's one thing, to come in with swords or axes. Bigfoot are pretty resilient. A couple rocks, you could hurt somebody. But I think maybe what they did see is they saw the war between the Europeans and the Native Americans, and they saw the bloodshed and they saw the violence. Because that's one thing I've noticed about Bigfoot encounters. A lot of the time, it's a defense mechanism, and it isn't acts of aggression. They're not actively out going and looking for humans just to kidnap, take into the woods, do whatever. And I think that takes another form of intelligence because you know, certain animals, they'll just attack people. They don't have that sort of mechanism that says, okay, I'm not going to attack this person because that would be a foolish thing to do. I'm going to attack them because I want to attack them, and there's nothing they can do about it, and they're just going to have to deal with it. And I find that I haven't read too many, if at all, unprovoked Bigfoot attacks. I don't think I've ever read about any where that person or those people were in an area where the Bigfoot was, and just like any of us, if there's intruders that come into our home, we're going to act a certain way. You know, you got somebody that steps onto your property, you might be like, hey, get off my property, or something bad gonna happen to you. And what I've noticed is I've never seen or heard, and I could be wrong, I don't know every account that goes on about Bigfoot, but I don't think I've ever read an account where Bigfoot was the aggressor.
Yeah, and not that he's ever. I mean, I think they are aggressive. They can be aggressive creatures, especially if they have like babies or something like that, and moms around in the area. I bet you she can get very aggressive, just like a mama bear and her cubs type thing. But yeah, I think if Bigfoot does exist, they would have to have some level of intelligence, and that's another thing that that we kind of don't want to, as people, we don't want to kind of think about, because that's scary, right? And inherently, that's a little scary to say something that lives in the woods is thinking about not hurting us. That's a little scary to think about, but I think that's absolutely true. I think if Bigfoot wanted to hurt us, he would have, and I think we would have eliminated that threat a long time ago, and we would have been like, oh, Bigfoot, that creature, yeah, that was back in the day, you know.
We rolled in with Abrams tanks and pretty much
yeah,
you know, got rid of them. So do you think the reason why they don't make themselves known is because of who they see human beings as, having basically lived beside us, watching what we do, watching how we treat each other? Not saying they have TVs, but you know, you are Bigfoot, you live in the woods during the colonial times of America. You're seeing bloodshed. You're seeing, you know, the English and the colonists going to war with each other. You're seeing men dying. You're seeing people getting shot and literally bleeding out of these. And I have to wonder too if there's any accounts, and I would love if anybody has any accounts, please send them to me, of colonists seeing any form of Bigfoot.
that would be cool to research.
I would have to wonder too if because we have more encounters with Bigfoot is because we've encroached upon their territory, and back in colonial times there was vast wilderness. Like you could, if you were a Bigfoot living in colonial America, you were good. Nobody was ever going to find you unless they just accidentally. But like you both said, human beings give off pheromones that you don't even have to put on cologne. You don't have to shower and do nothing. You have a natural scent, and
We stank
like a stank. Like I think that you, as a person, you might not even be able to smell. Other people might not be able to, but I thoroughly believe that if they are kind of animalesque, they're gonna have that scent to be like, oh, there's a human here. Just like we have the scent when there's a skunk around, you're like, I probably shouldn't go in that direction because there's a skunk over there. He's going to spray me. So I think that because of them seeing the bloodbath of humans, you know, the Civil War was one of the most brutal wars fought on American soil. Imagine being this creature and all you know is, okay, I had this vast land before, but now there's these shorter people coming in. They're killing each other in droves. And they're just leaving the bodies. The last thing I'm going to do is make myself known in a situation where I don't think I can win. First of all, human beings, we as human beings, our first thought is self-preservation. We want to preserve our way of life. So why wouldn't they want to preserve theirs? And I think that, like I said, after the Industrial Revolution, I think the world for them got smaller while the world for us got bigger. So we kind of pushed them away. And so in a small thing. And this really plays into the point you made earlier about smaller parks. If you push somebody into a smaller area, you're more likely to run into them than if if you live in the country, right? I could probably find you a lot easier than if you live in the middle of New York City.
Absolutely, yeah. People say all the time, "Oh, New Jersey's the most densely populated state. How could Bigfoot survive here?" I say, you take 10 of anything. Say there's 10 Bigfoot in New Jersey. Say there's 20 Bigfoot in New Jersey. Whatever, doesn't matter. You disperse them and say, "Hey, you go hide, and if somebody's coming, I want you to hide from them." You are never going to find those people. I mean, it's going to be impossible. You disperse them over the state of New Jersey. Good luck. You could have the most advanced technology on the face of the earth, and you're not going to find these things.
I think too, and I've me and my host have had this conversation. We were at a place called Rogues Hollow, and I've talked to you about this before. It's in the summertime, it looks vast. You can't see through the bush. It's very dense. Wintertime, about as big as a football field. That's it. Because the winter makes everything smaller. There's no leaves, there's no foliage. Everything just looks it's dead. So you can see in your different directions. Obviously, if you go to the Pacific Northwest, that's not the same thing. It's vast. But our eyes play tricks. We were there right before everything got locked down, and we were just walking around. I remember the day we saw a lot of stacked rocks. Now, obviously, human beings can make stacked rocks, but I've never seen them this intricate. That's not to say that human beings can't do it, but we got to a point where you're going down the trail where the trail ends, but the river keeps going. Like it keeps going in both directions. You could take it to one spot, you could take it down to the other. And the rocks were further down. And all I remember is this feeling like something was watching us. And it wasn't a person watching us. It didn't feel like, a person watching you is a little bit different than an animal. And like I said, it could have been a bobcat or a cougar. We have those in Ohio. They do make their way down here. There have been sightings down there. I'm not saying it isn't that. But it felt ominous. It didn't feel like, like when an animal's watching you, kind of like, okay, I'm just going to kind of let me go back the way I came. Everything should be fine. This was a completely different feeling. I've never felt anything like it. Like go ahead.
Was it during the day?
Yes.
Huh. Yeah, that's 100%. Weird.
It was during the, and the crazy thing is like, this is definitely not a correlation, but somebody had been practicing some form of white magic along the riverbank. There was a burnt candle and some rope. It was like very white and pink. So it was probably just two people down there goofing, love spell, that sort of thing. But it was just weird. It was like, it was a series of events on that day. It wasn't just like, it was like bam, bam, bam. And like I said, the rocks kind of threw me because they were small. They're probably about that big. And then they were just stacked. If I had to guess, I would say maybe 4 feet high. Oh, and wow. It was a series of them. And a lot of people don't know, but the Native Americans use stacked rocks as sort of directional points. So like if the tribes come behind you, they know where to go. They know to follow you. They know which way to go. And so I wonder once again, if Bigfoot hasn't sort of mimicked that. And also I think too, especially with Ohio and the area we live in, have a lot of coal mines. There's a lot of coal mining that was done here in this state, West Virginia. So I think even Bigfoot know the mines. They might know the mines. They know the area a lot better than we do. And like you said, if you put 10 people in a sprawling metropolis, hell, even if you put 10 people back in the colonial era, they could disappear and you'll never find 10 people in a state. You could even take a state as small as Rhode Island and throw 10 people on it and they could be gone. You might find one, maybe two, but if they know how to hide or they know how to move away from society.
If you put just a little teeny intelligence behind it, good luck. There's the Maine hermit that lived off the Appalachian Trail, 50 feet off the Appalachian Trail for 30 years. He didn't talk to anybody for 30 years. He lived, he had fires. The only way he got caught was he was stealing food from the Girl Scout camp, right? That's the only way they put out cameras, because he kept going there to steal snacks and stuff. But he lived 30 years within 50 feet of the most populous long trail in the United States and the world. and he was able to do that. It's crazy.
And it's it's a little bit harder today because everybody has a cell phone, everybody has a yeah, Deadpool says that sounds like a pretty sweet lifestyle. Yeah, imagine having not
Yeah.
to talk to anybody for 30 years. A lot of peace and quiet going into that. But I think, and that's another thing. I think that um I don't know if it's possible, but like you said, if Bigfoot knows about infrared, then they would probably know about how to escape being seen on infrared, which once again leads to a sign of intelligence. I don't think they're just dumb animals. Like that's the one
No.
thing I don't. Their origin, I'm a little unsure of. Like I said, they could be part of us. They could be part of a whole nother thing. Like I said, I think they're part of the old world. I think that they're a part of whatever it was that existed, because I think there's things that have existed that still exist. A lot of times they point to the dog man. That's a big one up in Wisconsin. I think there's a lot of things that we don't know that exist on this planet, and we live in our little comfort zone of, all three of us here have our lights on. We have electricity running. We have everything we need. We have our comforts. Meanwhile, there's creatures like the Bigfoot that will never have electricity. They'll never work a job. They'll never have to pay a single solitary bill. They just survive, but they know how to survive. And that's another thing that takes some form of intelligence. And I don't think it's just a simple, you have animals that, okay, I need to eat, I need to procreate, and I need to keep away from predators. And that's it. And they know how to do that. But Bigfoot do things a little bit different. There's signs of intelligence, i.e., the wood knocks, and that's a basic way to communicate with somebody.
That shows communication right there.
Yes.
Boom.
And
That shows a higher
communication is a
level of
sign of
intelligence.
intelligence. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's oh, listen, Deadpool, don't get me started about the ocean. I think there's things in the ocean that would terrify most of us, especially when you get down really. There might even be an ocean Bigfoot, swamp man or something. I don't know.
Jeez. Ocean man.
Ocean man, that's right. And that's what we're hunting for next. All three of us I'm going on the ocean. No, I think that we live in a society where people are so fast on the go, they don't think to stop about this kind of stuff. And it's people like yourself that are kind of bringing to light the interesting aspects of what could be. I've never once thought that Bigfoot didn't exist. I just am a little unsure of its origins or what its purpose is, what its intents are. Because, like you said, if they wanted to, they could take people in the forest. I mean, obviously, they wouldn't want to come into cities because they would get mowed down. I mean, mankind always finds new ways to blow each other up. We always find new ways to remove ourselves off the face of the planet. But I think they definitely exist. I also think that what happens when a Bigfoot dies is the family. There's been a couple different theories that say they basically dismember the body and they do with the parts whatever. There's also thoughts that they bury it. And that is my last question to you. What do you think they do? What do you think when a Bigfoot passes away? What do you think happens to the body, and why have we yet to have found one, or found one in terms of it being a nationally known thing?
Yeah, that's another great question. A question I get asked all the time is, where are the bones, right? Where are the, if a Bigfoot is a biological creature, it's got to die. It's got to. So where are the remains, right? That you touched on it. Some people think that they buried their dead, right? That would take a very high level of intelligence. Not saying that Bigfoot don't have it, but that would take even a higher level of intelligence than I think that they have. But I think, just like any other animal, if you're going to pass away, which most people know they're probably going to pass away, or most animals know they're going to pass away, they're going to go into the deepest, darkest crevice area that nobody can get to, and pass away kind of peacefully in there. And that's a lot of times that's going to be in like a swamp, a very impenetrable swamp or something like that. That's going to eat away your body flesh really quick. You have scavengers that are in the area. Porcupines eat bones. A lot of people don't realize that.
I did not know that.
Yep. They get the bone marrow from inside a bone, so they'll eat bones. So anywhere that there's porcupines, you're probably not going to find a lot of remains of animals. And I like to ask all the time, like I'll have hunters come up to me and be like, "I've been hunting for 40 years and I've never come across a Bigfoot bones. Where are the bones?" And I said, "Well, how often have you come across a bear skeleton?" And their minds are, because no, they haven't.
Yeah,
And
because I've never seen a
especially,
bear skeleton. I've seen little skeletons. I've never seen a bear skeleton. That's a good point.
we know they're out there, especially in Sussex County here, where I'm from. We know there's a ton of them, but it's still the same exact answer. Nobody's ever come across a dead bear skeleton.
And I
So
think too, maybe their body just breaks down differently. Maybe the
yeah,
Bigfoot's body biologically breaks
mhm,
down at a different rate of decomposition than our bodies do.
sure,
So, because that's what we think of. We think, okay, where's the bones? Because we can only go off how we decompose. We know how we decompose, and we're like, well, you're kind of like us, so you should decompose at the same rate, but maybe
hmm
they decompose a little bit faster. And like you said, with with the climate and everything else in certain locations, the eating and the breaking down of bones, of of the the skin, the bones, the muscle tissue, whatever doesn't eat the muscle tissue, whatever doesn't eat the bones, decomposes at a faster rate. And anything that would be in a winter like wilderness, mankind usually doesn't venture out too far into that sort of place because we can't even tolerate it.
yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
well, I want to thank you, Mike, for coming on. We appreciate you. This has been a fantastic conversation. I
I
would
can't
love to
believe
do
it's
it again.
been an hour. That's we
Yes,
got to do a round two. This is crazy.
we're definitely going to do a round two. We're also, I would love to go out with you on one of these. I've never been on one, and I
Oh,
want to see it for myself. Like, I'm not saying that I don't believe you or believe the other Bigfoot researchers, but I need to see it for myself, or I need to hear it for myself.
I got you covered. All you got to do is sign your life away and give me $1,000, and I'll take you out, no question about it.
Yeah, I might not come back.
Credit
No,
card
just kidding.
number and
I'm
your
kidding.
social
I'm
security.
kidding.
Load them right
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Your
Listen,
firstborn social and your last 4 of your credit card, please.
I got some debt you can have. I got some debt you can have. I'll give you that. I'll give you the debt.
Yeah.
Let people know where they can find you and let people know what's coming up for you, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Start off with go to my website, shadowofredeye.com. That's where anybody can see where my upcoming appearances, where I'm going to be, all that good stuff. And my YouTube, the link is down below at Shadow of Red Eye. Yeah, I appreciate everybody putting that link in there. That's really cool. And Facebook, I'm all over Facebook. That's where we do a lot of our social media stuff. We have an awesome Instagram behind the scenes stuff of like where we go and our fails and stuff like that. That's funny. I think we follow each other.
Yes,
So
sir. Yes,
definitely
sir. Go follow him for sure. Go follow him.
definitely check it out. Just FYI, I am not in charge of my own Instagram. All right. I got a manager that does it. So if you try to slide into my DMs, ladies, it's not me.
What
Just
about
saying.
what if the fellas try to slide into your DMs?
She's single. I mean, go
We
for
stumped
it.
him. We stumped
Yeah,
him.
I'm not gonna say guys slide into my DM. So
He
don't do
wasn't
that.
ready for that one. You could tell
I
he was
wasn't.
like,
I did. I just was not ready for that.
see,
But
that's
anyways, yeah.
that's how we test to see if you're an Android or not. See if we short circuit you. We do it to every guest.
Yeah, but anyway, guys, yeah, shadowofredeye.com. That's where you see me. I'm doing a library tour this year. Check it out. I'm doing like 11 states. If I'm gonna all the East Coast, if I'm gonna be in your area, check me out. It would be awesome to see you guys at a library experience, and we will definitely get an opportunity to go out when I'm in Ohio for sure.
Love it. And we definitely want to get you back on for a round two. I could have asked many more questions, and I think maybe next time we'll get your opinion on some other cryptids and creatures that you think could possibly exist.
Absolutely. And another fun fact for the 2024 touring season, I'm offering a Jersey Devil presentation, so we can talk about the Jersey Devil too.
You guys, if you get the chance, go out there, go see Mike. He's a good guy. I've met him in person, very knowledgeable about his subjects and very amazing presenter. So please go check him out.
Thank you.
Anyways, thank you, Mike. You are a blessing, and I appreciate you in this community. You make things interesting.
Thank you.
Because there's a lot of friction in the community that I've noticed. And so you come at this at a very scientific angle, but get that little hint of mystery that I enjoy. So I definitely appreciate that. So definitely keep up the good
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes,
That
sir.
means the world to me.
As for me, my co-host, next week we'll be talking about frequencies and how frequencies have shaped very many parts of our civilization in both buildings and in other ways. So please check us out next week on This Uncanny Earth, an amazing paranormal podcast. Also coming up Thursday, I'll be streaming from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 7 a.m. for St. Jude Children's Hospital. I'll be eating the hot chip behind me. I don't want to do that, but come through, donate to a good cause. I'll have the link set up. I get none of the money. It does not go to me. It goes straight to St. Jude, so you guys don't have to worry about sending me any money. If you would like to send me money, I will not dissuade you from sending me money, just so we're clear. But I'll be doing it for the children, so please slide through, hang out, come through for a few hours. Come keep me company at like 2 a.m. when I'll be half dead. So, but I love it. I do it every year, and I appreciate all of you coming out. So, as always, why be boring when you could be uncanny? We'll see you amazing folks next week.